Hi everyone, my name is Dr. Cindy Gilson and I am an Associate Professor of Gifted Education in the Special Education and Child Development Department at UNC Charlotte. In this video series, I will provide you with a brief introduction to a variety of key topics related to the nature and needs of gifted students in North Carolina. All essential adults who work with gifted students are those with potential, including general, special, gifted, and specialist teachers, counselors, and administrators should have some foundational knowledge about gifted students and gifted pedagogy. If you are interested in deepening your knowledge or eventually working with this population of students, as a UNCC undergraduate education major, you could apply to our graduate certificate program as an early entry student. If accepted, you could take 2 of the 4 required courses that lead to an add-on license. The 2 courses you could take include SPED 6161, which focuses on the social and emotional needs of gifted students. In SPED 5211, you would learn an introduction to the field of gifted education, gifted students, and gifted pedagogy. So let's continue building your foundational knowledge. First, pause the video and think about what you have learned so far about the conception of giftedness. Based on what you know about the meaning of gifted, how would you identify a gifted student? Keep your reflections in mind as we explore the topic of identification of gifted students in the state of North Carolina. Think about how your ideas are similar or different to what schools in North Carolina do. One common myth is that all students are gifted. This is not true. What is true is that all students have strength areas, like this kid in the comic. When it comes to identification, school districts align their definition of giftedness, identification procedures, and their programming options. For example, if a school district includes creativity in their definition, then they will administer a creativity assessment to identify students to participate in enrichment or gifted ed classes focused on fostering high levels of student creativity. Unfortunately for this kid in this comic, the program at his school is not aligned to his strength area. Importantly, North Carolina has legislation requiring identification of AIG students in kindergarten through grade 12. Recall that AIG stands for academically or intellectually gifted. It is up to the local school districts to decide exactly how they will identify AIG students. All school districts in North Carolina are required to submit their plan for identification. They need to align their plan to Standard 1 in the most current version of the North Carolina AIG program standards seen here on the screen. This is available to the public online. So this standard includes 6 specific practices. School districts use these practices as a guide to develop and consistently implement, document, and disseminate their plans around screening students, formally identifying students, and making sure the process is equitable for underrepresented groups. Pause the video and go to the link on the screen. There you will find a list of all the school districts in North Carolina. Select one, maybe your hometown district, and check out their identification plan. So the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction collects data on how many students school districts identify, and is a good way to hold districts accountable and analyze patterns of which demographic groups are being identified. As you can see, approximately 12% of students in North Carolina are identified as gifted, which is a huge improvement as traditionally the perception across the nation was that only about 1 to 2% of the population was gifted. Here is a comparison chart for the child count in North Carolina. The first column includes the demographic subgroups for students in North Carolina. The second column shows how many students are identified as AIG by those subgroups. For example, of all the students identified as gifted in North Carolina, about 7% or 12,552 of the 178,227 AIG students are Asian. Now the last column shows how many students are in North Carolina altogether by subgroup. For example, out of the approximately 1.5 million students in North Carolina, about 3.5% or about 50,000 students are Asian. Pause the video and see if you notice anything noteworthy. As you may have noticed, some subgroups are overrepresented and some subgroups are underrepresented. The Division of Advanced Learning and Gifted Education at the State Department of Public Instruction is working on ways to fix this. But what educators can do now is get training like this on the characteristics of diverse gifted students and become familiar with their school's identification procedures. Here are some identification options. Gifted education experts recommend that schools use multiple measures to identify students because there is no one perfect identification test that will find all of them. But that doesn't mean schools should use, say, 5 different identification options and that students have to ace all of them. Instead, they should score above grade level on at least one valid measure. In case you are curious, here is a brief overview of how Cabarrus County identifies their AIG students. You can see that they screen all students in grade 2 using a nonverbal test. Their AIG district plan also describes different pathways for how students in other grade levels can be identified. And you'll notice how they use a variety of different aptitude, achievement, and performance indicators. So just to wrap up, 2 key takeaways from this video include that 1, the identification process should be aligned to a district's definition of giftedness, and 2, it should include multiple measures to identify a diverse range of students representative of the school's student population. Students do not have to score above grade level on all measures, though. If you have any questions, please email me, and if you would like to do more learning, here is a comprehensive list of additional resources. Thank you for watching!